You know, you can be the most brilliant professional in the world, the absolute best at what you do. But if you can't explain it, your work might as well not even exist. Today, we're going to unpack the single most underestimated skill in any complex field, talking about your work. And let's be real, this isn't some fluffy, soft skill. It's a survival skill. We're going to break down exactly how you can master it.
All right, so what's the game plan? First, we're going to dive into why this is literally a make or break skill for your projects. Then, we'll get really clear on the right and the wrong way to communicate. After that, we'll equip you with a powerful storytelling toolkit. And finally, we'll tackle the tough, real-world challenges you're definitely going to face.
Okay, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. This is not about becoming a better public speaker just for the sake of it. This is about making sure your work, your ideas, and frankly your team actually have a future in your organization.
So, does this sound familiar? You're trying to explain a project that's absolutely critical, something you know is a total game changer, and all you're getting back are these blank stares. You can see how important it is so clearly, but it just feels like there's this invisible wall between you and everyone else.
And that wall, that feeling of not being heard, it has huge consequences. This quote just nails it. It is not an exaggeration. Your ability to advocate for what you do is directly, one-to-one, tied to whether your team gets the resources it needs or if it gets pushed to the side.
I mean, really think about it for a second. This skill impacts everything. It's the difference between getting the budget for that new tool you desperately need or being told, sorry, it's not a priority. It's what convinces another team to actually work with you. Heck, it's what gets you hired or promoted in the first place. How you talk about your work literally defines its value to everybody else. Okay, so we've established the stakes are incredibly high, but just knowing why it's important isn't enough, right? The how is just as critical, and there's this fundamental mindset shift we have to make, a really key distinction in our whole approach.
When it comes down to it, you've basically got two ways you can go: advocacy or evangelism. One is all about creating a real dialogue, a back and forth. The other is it's just broadcasting a message into the void. And in our world, only that dialogue actually works.
Just look at the difference here. It's night and day. Advocacy is all about the feedback loop. It's not just about pushing your message out there. It's about actively listening. You're inviting questions, you're creating a discussion so you can figure out what your audience actually cares about, and then you can adapt on the fly.
So if advocacy is about sparking a conversation, what's the single most powerful way to start one? It's not some new management fad or a fancy PowerPoint template. The answer? Well, it's as old as humanity itself. You tell a story.
It's because our brains are literally, and I mean literally, wired for narrative. You can throw facts and figures at someone, and they'll forget them in 5 minutes. But stories stick. They are the most effective way we have to take a whole mess of complex, interconnected ideas and package them up so that people can actually get it, remember it, and most importantly, care about it. It's the ultimate tool for a deep dive conversation.
Okay, let's look at a perfect example of this in action. At first glance, this definition of site reliability engineering, or SRE, it might seem a little abstract, maybe a bit academic, but it's actually a brilliantly crafted story starter. It's designed not to end the conversation with a final answer, but to kick one off.
And this is where the magic happens. Every single one of those keywords, sustainable, appropriate, discipline, is a potential doorway. By offering up this definition, you're not forcing one single narrative down their throat. You're basically handing your audience a set of keys and letting them choose which door they want to open.
And you can see exactly how this plays out in the real world. A manager who's feeling totally swamped is going to latch on to the word sustainable. A team trying to prove its value will zero in on discipline. By just listening to which word they pick up on, you instantly know their pain point, and you can steer the rest of the conversation to what they actually care about.
All right, it's time to build out your arsenal. A single story, just like a single tool, is not going to work for every situation. You need a whole toolkit, a bunch of different narrative frameworks you can pull out depending on what you're trying to do and who you're talking to.
So for example, sometimes you'll need an efficacy story that just uses hard data to show how your work improved a key metric. Or maybe a transformation story that paints this crystal clear before and after picture of a system you fixed. You could even use a mystery story to walk people through how you diagnosed a really baffling outage. Each one of these frames your work in a different and really compelling light.
NA, here's a super simple but really powerful habit you can start today. Keep a notebook or a file somewhere, and just jot down these moments as they happen. An interesting bug, a clever solution, a little aha moment. This becomes your raw material, your story fodder for all your future advocacy.
Okay, but let's get real for a minute. Putting all this into practice in the real world, it's not always so straightforward. You are absolutely going to run into some tricky situations. So let's talk about the two biggest challenges you'll probably face and how to deal with them.
And this first one, man, it's the classic problem for anyone doing preventative work. Your greatest successes are often totally invisible. The system that didn't crash, the crisis that you averted. How in the world do you demonstrate the value of that? The secret here is one word: contrast. You make the invisible visible by comparing it to a real, tangible failure. You tell the story of a past outage, you walk your audience through all the pain and the cost, and then you stop, right at the exact point where, this time, your new process kicked in and stopped the disaster. You literally turn the absence of failure into the hero of your story. But you know, there's another kind of story that's just as dangerous, maybe even more so, but for totally different reasons. It's the story that sounds great on the surface, but what it's really doing is celebrating completely unsustainable work. It's the story that creates a hero culture.
The really critical skill here is learning how to spot these red flags in our own stories and then totally reframe them. What sounds like a heroic, all-hands-on-deck effort is often just a symptom of a much deeper, systemic failure. This is exactly what that reframe looks like. The story isn't, I worked 30 hours without sleep to fix the server. The real story is, our on-call rotation and our incident response completely failed, which forced someone to work for 30 hours straight. Glorifying those moments just leads to burnout. And even worse, it hides the real problems that desperately need to get fixed.
So, as we start to wrap this up, I want to leave you with this one last thought, because it's a powerful one. This whole process of crafting stories, of really digging deep into your own work so you can explain it clearly, it isn't just for your audience, it's for you. The act of teaching is the ultimate act of learning. It forces you to find a whole new level of clarity, and it deepens your own understanding along the way.
So the real question I want to leave you with isn't just what story will you tell next, it's what will that story teach you about your own work? The next time you get ready to explain something complex, don't just think about the message you're sending out. Ask yourself what you're discovering in the process, because that is the true art of the deep dive.